Hello, everyone, and welcome to What are the Best Features of BIM Collaborate PRO webinar. My name is Juliana, and I work in marketing here at MicroCAD. And today's presenter is our applications specialist, Phil Marshall. This webinar will highlight the specific features that will improve collaboration amongst all your project team. Throughout the webinar, you can ask a question at any given point on the left-hand corner. You can ask Phil to revisit a step or ask any questions. This is your time, and we want you to make the most of it. And in the upper left-hand corner, you will find links to our social media and website. Also our YouTube channel, so make sure to check that one because we post all of our webinars there at the end, so you can share with colleagues or watch it on your own time. And without further ado, we'll pass it on to Phil. Hi, Phil.
Good afternoon, everyone. So Juliana asked me to put together the best features for collaboration, and she said, let's find 5 or so. And I just couldn't narrow it down to 5, so I ended up with 6 of the best features. And these are things that are really affecting our customers today. These are things our customers find really help them in their day-to-day work. So I'm going to go through these, and all of them, of course, relate to the with BIM Collaborate Pro, which is the Autodesk product that allows collaboration on the project. BIM Collaborate Pro is the tool that gives you a data platform to share amongst all of the project people on the project. That allows you to democratize access so everyone has access. Most importantly, it's the single source of information for everyone. BIM Collaborate Pro also provides help for the project managers so they can see what's going on with the project, who has accomplished what issues are still outstanding. And it could be people who are working in Revit or Civil 3D or Plant 3D, depending on the kind of project you're working on, or a combination of those. So BIM Collaborate Pro really is the glue that ties all the different needs together, whether it's the individual author's needs or the needs of the project manager or anyone else that needs to review the overall project. So let's talk about the 6 things I found were the best functions that help people get their projects done. First one is the fact that BIM Collaborate Pro allows multiple file formats. And the idea here is you go one place to find all the information about your project. And all of it comes viewing through the BIM browser. So let's take a look what that might look like. So here we're in the Autodesk BIM environment. And we've got a data structure that says we start at the very top. So these are all projects of MicroCAD. And then within all of the project for MicroCAD, we've got a particular project called ACC Teach. And within that, we have folder structures where all of the data is. Now, this is, again, single source of information. You just come down here and poke down, and this is where our architectural designs are. This is where the MEP designs are. So everything is put together in one place. And when we're talking about multiple file formats in another folder, like an admin folder, you could have things like specifications, like the execution plan. That's a good one. And these are in different formats. It isn't drawings, it isn't Revit, it isn't DWG. This happens to be a docs document. You could have spreadsheets, you could have email, you could have PDFs. So all of this information is available in one place. So we don't have to spend any time poking around on different locations to find what you need for that particular project. So I thought that was important and valuable, and my customers find that that's indeed the case, that they like to go to one place to find the information. All right, number 5 on the countdown is workflows. So now we've got all this information electronically in the cloud. what we want to do is control the quality of that information. And this is what people have been doing for 20, 30 years. The idea is that somebody creates some design information, they pass it to Joe, and Joe looks at it and says, yeah, that's good, or no, that's not good, and then pass it to somebody else as necessary, in order to make sure that you're verifying that the design itself is of the quality and correctness that you really need. We've implemented in the BIM, Autodesk BIM Cloud, a process that electronically passes on the information to all the people who are involved in the workflow. So Joe's going to get an email now and says, Joe, you got to review this document, and I'm going to give you 2 days to do it, or whatever. And the whole idea here is this is electronic, it's automated, and it's highlighted in the for all of the project managers to see. We've got so many reviews outstanding, and Joe needs to get an answer back in 2 days or whatever. Something else that you could do with these workflows is control and limit client access. So let me show you what that might look like. So if I have a document, let me go to the architectural folder. And I have a document like this, and I want to send it to a review process. Then I can just say I want to submit to review. But let's talk about how you set up these review processes first. So we come over here to reviews. By the way, this shows all of the reviews are outstanding on this particular project. So you can see we've had a number of reviews that have gone through before. Some of them were for client release, some were for the project manager approval. But let's create a new review so you can see the capabilities here. So I'm sorry, that's not what I want to do. I don't want to create a view. I want to look at the review templates. Okay, so there's a workflow, and I'm going to create a new workflow. So when I'm defining these workflows for the approvals, I could have an approval process that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. That would be really complicated if you do it in 5 steps. But you could readily imagine a 2-step process, maybe even a 3-step process, if you need to get client approval on something. So you choose how many steps you want. Let me show you what it would look like with a simple 1-step process. So here we're going to give the name of a process. So this is new workflow, and what is, you give a description. But basically here now we're seeing who can initiate these workflows. So I can go through and say Douglas can, and I can, and Sheila can. And so I'm establishing who has the ability to submit these workflows. And that could be by individuals, or it could be by company, or it could be by role, because everybody in a project is assigned a role. So you can make it pretty easy to select who can initiate. Then you say, okay, so we've got a workflow, it gets initiated. Who does the review? And again, this is where we go and say, well, I'm going to make that, I'm the only one that can do a review on this. Or I could do it by company or role again. But I assign who's going to do the review and give that person however many days you want to give them. Maybe it needs to be turned right around. So you say, you've only got 1 day, look at that document, get it right back to you. This is really important. And one of the things that's really powerful that my customers use a lot is that action upon completion. So what that says is that after this review is complete and approved, copy the approved files to a particular folder. So I could go in here and say, I've got a particular folder under, here we go, approved for client. So now when I work this workflow and whoever does the review approves this, the file gets copied to that particular folder, approved for client. Now, of course, if you're using BIM 360 or ACC, you know that you can set up these folders and give permissions of access to the various folders. So it could be set up, and it's most likely set up, that that particular folder, the approved for client, is the only folder that the client can see in the whole system. So by copying the approved files into that client folder, then you're guaranteeing that they're not looking at anything that hasn't been reviewed, that hasn't gone through this workflow. All right, so I want to show you what it looked like to build a workflow. let's go back to what I was looking at before. And if I go to the architecture folder and look at one of these documents and submit for review, so now I'm going to take this document, you get a preview of what the document is, and I want it to go to a client release workflow. So it's a two-step process. I can see what that two steps are. I'm going to shortcut it by shortened process, just so I can get this through without going through too many steps. And we're only going to have one file, but we could have many files. We would have an entire drawing set here for review. But here I'm just going to take that one document. It goes into the review process, and now it needs to notify the reviewer. So it's going to notify these people that there's this open review, number 7. And yeah, so then I go ahead and send those emails. All right, so now there's review outstanding right here, and it's called shortened process. So I'm going to be the reviewer. So if I click on it, I'm going to do my review. And I'm going to say this is okay. I'm not going to make any changes. And there was a two-step process, if you remember. So I get to the final review. Again, I'm going to be the reviewer for that. Normally, you wouldn't have the same person for the initial and the final, but we don't only got one person online today. And I look at this and say, what's my status? I'm going to approve that document. So now it's gone through a two-step process. We've approved that document. We've all looked at that document, said this is okay, it's all right to release to the client. And now I'm done with that review. And if I look under the review list, we see that that shortened process is closed. We did it in what, 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes. So it was a really shortened process. But the idea is that we've reviewed that document. And if we go back to the file structure, remember we'd say under the folder approved for client, we now have that document here. And if the client has access to this folder and only this folder, now the client can review that document. So that's one of the biggest powers of the review process. Not only can you make sure that documents get approved by the right people, and then electronically that makes a big difference in turnaround, but you can make sure that the client gets to see only what you want them to see, which is important a lot of times. All right, so that's what I wanted to show you on that particular function. So let's look at, so that was review workflows. So let's look at number 4. Item number 4, support of Revit, Civil 3D, and Plant 3D. So this is really important because most of the projects that we work on aren't just architectural projects, not just even architectural and MEP. There's almost always a civil component, whether it's getting the existing conditions of the site or worrying about underground utilities or establishing where it is geolocated. And a lot of the projects that our customers work with are industrial facilities. So if they're industrial, then Plant 3D is a good design tool for any kind of process engineering. So you want to choose the right tool for the authoring and not have it impact you at the project level. So sometimes you want to choose Revit, sometimes it's going to be Civil 3D, and sometimes it's going to be Plant 3D, but any of those work with this process. So let me take a quick look at Revit, because that's the system I got here. All right, so in Revit, it's integrated with the Autodesk Docs environment. So if I want to open a file in Autodesk Docs, I just click on this, and now I'm in the cloud. I'm poking around to find what Revit document do I want to open in the cloud. I'm going to stay in the ACC Teach and open one of these.
Hey, Phil. Sorry, we have a question.
Sure.
The question says from Hector, Does the client need an Autodesk license to access that folder?
Yes, that's correct. The client would need a Autodesk license to access the folder, but bear in mind that you can, as a service provider, you can always take that license, that service, and assign it to that client for the duration of the project. So it isn't that you give them a license or they have to buy a license. What you can do is just, in essence, loan it to them for the duration of the project, and then you bring it back and use that license someplace else.
Got it. Thank you, Bill. Hope that
Okay.
answers your question, Hector.
All right. No, keep those questions coming. That's I want to make sure we answer any concerns that you have. Okay, so what I was doing is I was showing you in Revit that we can browse down the same folder structure that you have on the browser interface with Autodesk Cloud. Here we have these different folders, so we can go to architecture and open an architecture folder, or we could open the MEP folder and then start actually accessing, in this case, a Revit model. So this is the architectural model right from the cloud. So in all of these cases, whether it's Revit or Plant 3D or Civil, you aren't moving files. You aren't moving files around. You are just simply going to the cloud to say, I want to open this cloud model, and that's all. Everything else is taken care of behind the scenes. All you're thinking of is using that same data structure that you have in the cloud for your authoring tool. So no matter what authoring tool you're using, it works with the cloud. And we're going to talk about issues a little bit. For all of these tools, they have a tab for issues. Let's show you what issues are all about, because I think that's the next item. So that was number 4, the idea that you've got different authoring tools that you could use, and it covers the whole gamut of the needs. And the next item is indeed number 3, issues. So the idea of an issue is that anybody who has the privilege can be looking at these designs and looking at these models, and maybe they've got a question, or maybe they find a mistake, or maybe they aren't sure that this is a good idea. Excuse me. So they can create an issue that is kept with the project, and other people can see that issue. And that issue gets assigned to a specific person with a due date. So you might say, hey, Douglas, I'm not sure that this is the right size piece of equipment. Can you check on it and get back to me by Tuesday? And again, excuse me, an email goes out to Douglas, and he's notified that this is the work he's got to do. Now, in the course of a project, you may get lots and lots of issues, so there's some filtering capability, so you only get to see, you can choose to only see the issues that affect you. If you're the project manager, you might be most interested in the issues that are overdue. So you can choose this filtering in lots of different ways in order to meet what you're trying to do. And the last point about issues here, and I'll show you issues live, is that the issues show up in the authoring software. So just as I showed you a second ago, in Revit, you have a tab for issues, and you'd be able to see the issues that are assigned to the Revit model. So let's come here, and we'll go to the MEP folder and open the MEP project. We're in the browser interface to the Autodesk Cloud. And if I look at the sheets, the mechanical plan, what we see are 2 of these big mustard colored dots. These are issues. So if I click on one of these issues, it tells me what is the issue. The issue here is that there's a problem with the HVAC in the electrical room. And if we look at the description, the electrical room has no HVAC. Oh, yeah, that's not very good. There's no terminals there. So obviously that's a design mistake at this point. So that got assigned to Douglas to resolve with the due date of the 17th. So Douglas, you need to get in there and get some airflow for the electrical equipment so it doesn't overheat. But the idea is that these issues could be created anywhere, by anyone who has the authority, and it keeps it with the model until it gets resolved. Over here, we can see all of the issues for this particular project, and maybe there's this other issue, design check sizing. If I click on that, it zooms up to show me that particular issue. In this case, it was on the same sheets as the other one, but it would change sheets if it needs to. So now we get to see those. Now, if I was going to make a change to this in Revit, on the MEP side of Revit, we could actually show the issues in Revit and resolve it there. Or maybe I could resolve it here. I could say, may need larger air handler unit for this. Maybe I do the check and say, no, it's okay. I've looked at it and it's all right. So I'm going to close that issue. Now, I can close it because I'm the author. I'm the one who created it. If I was someone else, or if I was Douglas, and Douglas looked at it and said, yeah, this is okay, he could have resolved the issue. Then it comes back to me as the initiator of the issue for me to close. Only the initiator can close it. So it does guarantee that there's a closed loop from the initiator back to the initiator to make sure that the issues are resolved. And the other thing I'll mention about issues is that they are never forgotten. So at the end of the project, you can create reports to see what issues got resolved, which subcontractors were the most diligent in resolving the issues, which issues were the fault of which subcontractors, so that you can make some judgments about what subcontractors and consultants you want to use on your next project. So this is a retrospective of the quality of the building, but it's also a retrospective of who did what in the process of the overall process of the building. So we find that issues, my customers find that issues are really powerful and really useful for verifying and keeping track of open items. All right. Let's go back to here. And what was the next? So issues were number 3. And the next one is number 2. And project at a glance. This is what project managers really want to do. They don't want to drill down and see all the details of everything. They just want to get a top level view of what's going on with my project right now. In 30 seconds, I want to be able to absorb what's going on in my project, because after all, very few project managers work with only one project at a time. They work with several different projects, and they need to be able to resolve what's going on with each of these projects, which one needs my attention the most, what are the emergencies that have to be handled. So the project managers get the ability with the Insight tool to be able to see what's going on, what issues are outstanding, what reviews are outstanding, what packages have been created and released. And they can customize what shows up on that screen. And they also can see which team, because the projects are broken down by discipline, different teams, which ones have published their data recently. So let's take a look at that. So I mentioned the Insight tool. This is probably where the project managers are going to spend most of their time. It's certainly the first screen they're going to look at 7 o'clock in the morning when they come on their way into the site on their iPad. They will pull this up and they say, okay, what's going on today? This is the weather for today. We've got these quality risks, these safety risks, and these are the issues that are happening. And these are the design issues. And we've got these RFIs outstanding. We've got this design package outstanding. We've got these submittals. And so in one screen, very quickly, the project manager can get a quick handle on what's going on, what are the critical things, what's overdue. You know, obviously this is a test project. Something overdue from June will be a real problem. But the idea, of course, they'd get to see what's overdue and they can respond to that and see the details of what is this check wall angularity, and that hasn't happened since June. There's a problem. I need to get hold of somebody. So the idea is the project manager has this top level view. Really quickly, they get to see what's going on in their projects. Now, the other tool that they have is to look at what's called design collaboration. Now, in design collaboration, the idea here is you have multiple teams working on the project. So you can see what they're doing in terms of these, I call them swim lanes. So for this particular project, we've got 3 teams, the democratize team, the MEP team, and the architecture team. And the architecture team has published their models at these green circles and squares. So this is the work they've done. The MEP team has published their data here and here and here. So what we're seeing here is that we can identify fairly quickly when a document was published, what it consists of. So if I just hover over it and see that was a single file gen review published yesterday, as a matter of fact. And if we look at some of these other ones, we see that the architecture released the document back in April of this year, and that was the first release. Let's see here. Yeah, here we go. So they released a file in April, ACC Simple Project. So we can identify who's released what file, where they are, what's going on. And let's go to the MEP project again. Yeah. And now, let's go to architecture. So here I can look at the files that they've published, the files that they're working on. And if I needed to, I could just click on that and get a quick look of this is the model that the architecture team is doing. And I can tell what version it is because I can see the version number 2. And if necessary, I can compare versions. So if this is version 7, I want to see what have they done since version 6. The compare tool lets me see that variation from 7 to 6. So again, for the project manager, this is the kind of things they want to know. They want to know, well, what have you done this week? What's the difference between last published and this published? Why haven't you published anything in 2 weeks? So these are the kind of things that this tool brings for the project manager. All right. And let's see. That was number 2. So the number 1 function, the number 1 feature that I find our users find most valuable is whatever feature gets released next week. Because what this means is that this particular tool is always getting better. It's adding new functions, new capability. And when you do get these releases, you log on to the system Monday morning and you get the little dialogue to say, hey, this weekend we updated this, this, and this, and this. Click here to see a video about these tools. And I can't tell you how many times I've done that and I've clicked on that video and I say, oh yeah, that's cool. I can use that this week. Absolutely. Remember that this is not a static tool. This is getting better all the time. There's always new functions, new capabilities. And when you get these notifications, take the time to see what is new. And this is the nature of the beast. This is when you have software as a service, you can do these updates, and Autodesk does do these updates somewhere between every other week or every other month, but they do the updates frequently. And I've seen that they've been very responsive to the user requests. You probably know that there's a forum out there called the Ideas Forum, and you can suggest ideas for improvement for these particular tools. And what happens is all of the users who access that forum, they can vote on the ideas. And the ideas that get the most votes are the ones that pop to the top of the development cycle. Now, in Revit or Inventor or one of those workstation-based pieces of software, those releases are maybe twice a year, maybe 3 times a year, because the development process for those kinds of tools is really, really heavy. But when you've got software as a service and everything is driven from the cloud, it's easier to make the software changes and expand it and add the updates. So what we see is, as I said, the updates occur every other week or every other month, and every release has these. We added this and this and this, and before you had to do this, now you can do this and this and this. So it's really getting better, and that's why I'm saying that improvement, whatever is released next week, those are going to be the things that you really remember and really take advantage of to make your life better. So that's the 6 top things in what benefits the cloud software is to the users. Number 6 was multiple file formats. Number 5 was the review workflows. 4 was the support of Revit, Civil 3D, and Plant 3D. 3 for project managers, the project at a glance. 2 is issues, which really helps you make sure nothing gets forgotten. And the number 1 was whatever's going to be released next week. And all of these help you organize your data, become a data platform, a single source of truth for the entire project, make it all of the activity of the project more visible so that the project managers can deliver projects on time better. And all of the people, all of the teams are working together. Even if it's very complex projects that require Revit and Civil 3D and Plant 3D, you still can all work together to get the project done. And that's what I wanted to cover today.
Thank you so much, Phil, for that wonderful presentation. Definitely some great features that I think were summarized in a great way. So thank you so much. And as a reminder for everyone, you can ask a question on the left-hand corner. And we have one question. It says, how do I get updates to BIM Collaboration Pro to see those new capabilities?
So there's someone that agrees that the number 1 feature is the things that are going to be next coming out, and that's absolutely true. So how do you get those? The answer is you don't have to do anything. Because it is cloud-based software, when the update is done by Autodesk, when you first sign on after they do the update, you'll automatically get that update. You'll also get a notification saying we've made an update. It added this feature and this feature and this feature. And they have so far always had a video for each of those features. So if you wanted to learn more about that particular feature, you just click on the button, you get a little video. So they do a good job of identifying, we changed something this weekend, this is what we changed, this is what we added, take a look at it and see if you can use it. And as I said, unerringly, they're doing this in response to customer requests. So if other customers had that request, it's possible that likely that you have the same kind of issue. So now right away, you should be able to use those new features effectively.
Got it. Thank you, Phil. The next question is, can you put scan data in BIM Collaboration Pro?
Yeah, you certainly can. As I said before, you put data of any type into the cloud, Autodesk Cloud. Scan data, interestingly, is one of the most powerful things you can put into the cloud because it's huge. I mean, we're talking about 6 gigabits of data for a medium-sized building. So you want not to have to move those files around from place to place. Putting it in the cloud in one location, then everybody can access it. So for example, if you did a drone scan of the existing site, you do it once, you put it up on that cloud project, then the Civil 3D guy can review it and use it to do their grading. The architect can use it to review where they're placing their walkways. Plant 3D could use it for where the steam lines are coming into the building. So once you get the data there on the cloud once, you don't have to move it around. I do want to mention that it depends on the particular kind of scanning equipment, what formats you get. Some formats are not viewable. Some scan formats are not viewable in the cloud without further processing. So in the for example, with Leica scanners, you scan it with Leica. By the way, Leica is a great set of scanners. You scan with the Leica scanner, whether it's drone mounted or tripod mounted, get the point cloud, and that's in the form of an LCS file, but then it's processed to become a RCP file, a recap file. And the recap file you can see in BIM 360 Collaboration Pro. So there is some processing that needs to be done in order to view the point clouds by themselves. But it's, that's what you got to do. You got the data, the raw data from the scanner, and then you process it. And now it's viewable. Again, because everything's on the cloud, those huge files, it's okay because they're not being moved. They're worked on in place in the cloud. Oh, by the way, Autodesk doesn't charge for cloud storage. So putting those big files up on the cloud, you don't have to pay for them. It's just a good place to park that data.
Oh, good to clarify. That's why it is so good. Okay, and I think that's it. As a reminder for everybody, if you want to learn these topics in detail, you can always take a custom training with Phil or someone else on our team. We also offer group classes online, so be sure to be checking our MicroCAD website for future webinars. We have What a Civil Engineer Needs to Know About Navis Works on October 20th. And then we have an Inventor 2023 user group about what's new in the latest version on October 27th. So I think that's it. Thank you, Phil, so much for that presentation. And that concludes our webinar. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Oh, and this is our contact information. So in case you have any further questions regarding this or anything else, be sure to be contacting us. We'll be happy to help you. Thank you so much, Phil.
You're welcome. I enjoy it.